Kathy, what would you like to do?
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call to order the Town Commission work session for the budget for July 28, 2026.
Yes. Commissioner Keller?
Here.
Vice Mayor Satterfield is absent and watching over Zoom. Mayor Taylor?
I'm here.
Commissioner Motley?
Present.
Commissioner McMillan?
President.
Okay. All right, good deal. You said Commissioner Satterfield's on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay,
Not participating by Zoom. He's
Just
watching.
watching, okay.
Yes.
All right, didn't know if we needed to go. Okay. All right, so let's start with Gabby with the 2026-2027 fiscal year. This is the second budget work session.
Mike said you can't hear.
Just a minute.
Who can't hear?
Mike, Satterfield.
Commissioner Satterfield.
Oh, we can't hear.
He can't hear the meeting? All right.
You got it. It's on now.
Is it working now? Okay. There you go.
Do I go? Is it up?
I don't think it's up here. Let me fix something. Sorry.
Is your mic working, Gabby?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, her mic's working.
Why'd you delay like
I just
that?
want to make sure Mike can hear.
Right.
Okay, so, as we mentioned, tonight's our second budget workshop for the upcoming 2026-2027 budget. In this budget session, we're gonna be focusing on the enterprise fund, impact fees, and capital improvements. We'll also cover the changes to the general fund since the last budget workshop. So the purpose is to present to the town commission a summary of the preliminary budget numbers for the enterprise fund, also known as the water fund, the impact fee fund, and cover the 5-year capital improvement project, or budget. Here's our budget principles. When creating this budget, we wanted to ensure that we maintained a structurally balanced budget while prioritizing essential services as best as we could. We also wanted to preserve the town's financial stability and ensure transparency in all budget decisions. A general outline of how we will be proceeding tonight. So we'll start off with the changes to the general fund first, then we'll go into the enterprise, then impact fees, capital improvements, and then upcoming dates and requested action. We do need to make a motion in the next commission meeting, so the one after, because we have to approve the tentative millage rate and we have to approve the tentative and final hearing dates. So you'll see that as the last slide, but you guys don't make any decisions until we.
That's on the consent agenda.
Yes, I just wanted to, in case you see it.
Okay, you want to pull it off and make it separate, or you want to keep it on the consent agenda?
No, it needs to be into that
Okay.
meeting, so, but we can do it first if we can, just get it out of the way. Okay, so we're gonna begin with the changes to the general fund. So, since the last workshop meeting, our taxable values have changed, not for the better. They actually decreased. So, the Orange County Property Appraiser finalized their taxable values on the DR 420. The DR 420 is a certification of taxable value required under the Florida Administrative Code. It's part of the Florida's truth and millage or TRIM process, which ensures transparency on how local taxing authorities set property tax millages. Unfortunately, they overestimated the town's value by $11 million back in June, so we had to reconfigure the ad valorem numbers due to the decrease. This also caused a shift for the fiscal year 2028 and 2029 projections that I had previously presented. It's kind of small to see, but right here is the original number. So this is the letter that they sent us. So originally, they said that our property value was $1,037,422,455. And the new number provided is right here, so this is the, let me see if I can move you. This is the official 420 form. So this number right here is the new updated number. So it's the real property with the personal property added together, this becomes this. So I reached out to the property appraiser. I was a little confused because when I was redoing this, it didn't match up to my original calculations. And it's basic math, so I was like, hey, it's not adding up. And they were like, well, as you should know, it's only an estimate, so you shouldn't have taken that for face value. Unfortunately, it's never been overestimated by that much. It's usually only ever been by like $1 million or $2 million. So this was kind of a big hit to our bottom line, so. The new number is $1,026,267,670, so, there you go. Some more changes to the general fund. So, since our last meeting, a police vehicle was totaled. It was set to be paid off in fiscal year 2027. And we will have to see if we need to replace it. Chief is looking at options, but there's a possibility that we may have to take on another car payment in fiscal year 27. We are getting a grant that is gonna give us a truck from FDLE. It should be coming soon. And then I believe there's a possibility we might be getting 2 cars from another agency. That one's not set in stone yet. With those 3 cars, we may not need to get another car, but we don't know yet. So because the other agencies hasn't been set in stone yet, it's just kind of up in the air right now. So there is a possibility. I will know closer to the final budget meeting if that number needs to go up. So it would go up in the police auto lease jail code. Yes, Commissioner?
So we don't have that included in these numbers?
No.
Okay.
No. So what's in there right now is 50,000, I believe.
50?
Let me look. Yes, 50,000. So that covers the current cars that we have on lease or that we make payments to. It does not include an additional car to that. If that does need to change, then I will increase that particular number. You do see in fiscal year 27 and 29 on that jail code that it does decrease. That's because one, that car was supposed to come off, plus an additional car is supposed to come off. And then another car is supposed to come off in the following. So, and there's a very small slight buffer in there, it's very tiny. Okay. We've also added overtime into the personnel costs, so that you might have seen that increased. We added overtime to the Public Works Department, to the Police Department, and I believe into the Administrative Department, just for events, because that's where their salaries comes out of. So that got included, as well as taxes went up and retirement went up for those respective departments. Southern Oaks paving, that came back higher. We discussed that at the last commission meeting. It originally had $180,000 budgeted in that line item, but now it's been increased to $220,000. Jonelle, the previous public works director, he had asked for $220,000 to include a contingency in there in case something had happened. So we just went ahead and put that in there. It was also brought to our attention that the abandonment of the OACS septic tank needs to occur, in this upcoming fiscal year, so 40,000 has been added to the budget for that as well. And 30,000 for the HVAC for this building that we're in. According to Scott, it's almost 20 years old, if not over 20 years old. Maybe not, I might be over exaggerating, but he did say that it is significantly old and it needs to be replaced. I don't know if this building is 20 years old, but
It is.
it is, okay, so then, yeah, so his assessment is right. So we do need to replace it. So he's budgeted 30,000, well, he asked for 30,000, and I put that in there, so, he has asked for it in the last 2 years and it's gotten pushed. I don't think we can continue to push it, so if we do need to make cuts, I don't think they should be that one. And then since our property values decreased, so did our fire rescue by approximately 122,000. That helped offset these 3 additions. But then we added 115 for studies. So for a fire fee assessment and then a stormwater assessment, those would be non-ad valorem assessments. So that also got added. And then with all of those changes, unfortunately the budget, and with the decrease in ad valorem, it wasn't a deficit. I had previously stated that the budget was balanced without the use of reserves. That has since changed. We are in a deficit of almost 200,000. So in order to make it balanced, I had to pull from reserves. So I pulled 300 to offset it and to leave a little bit of a contingency in case something else miraculously pops up that we need to fund for. So that leaves us with a new contingency of 111,000. I know you guys see 94, some change. I have since made a change since you've been given this, so that's why I have it a little bit higher, so we made a cut to something else. So we will look a little bit closer to the revenues in the general fund. Right now, the revenues that I have projected are still looking to be close to that. So like all the other sales tax, house and sales tax, CST, all of that is still looking like it's gonna be what I originally projected. So I can't really up those numbers, but I don't wanna overinflate the budget. So I'll keep an eye on it as the weeks go by, and if I can increase those, then I will, but as of right now, I have to leave it with the 300,000 in reserves unless you guys have any cuts that you guys wanna make. Moving on. So these were the original tables that I had shown in the first budget workshop. So this was the old one, and then this is the new one. So as you can see, I changed the ad valorem numbers. Everything else stayed the same though, with the exception of the reserves. So the difference between fiscal year 27 from the old to the new did go up by 300,000 here, but it's not up by much. It's literally up by 230,000. And then these went down. So this went from 10.388 to 10.317, and then 9561 to 9490.
And that reflects if Amendment 3.
Yes, so this right here, this is current year that we're about to go into. So this is what we're considering year 1. This is year 2, so this reflects a $150,000 homestead exemption. And then year 3 reflects the $250,000 homestead exemption. Same thing with the expenditures, so this was last budget workshop's little graph that I had put in. It's kind of small, but you can see the deficit right here. So if Amendment 3 goes through, if all is said and done, all of our expenditures versus our revenues, we would be in a deficit of 255,000. With the new information that we have, we're looking at a deficit of 352,000. And then year 3 with the $250,000 exemption, it was at 595, and now we're looking at 694. So almost $100,000 increase in deficit. Okay, moving on to the enterprise fund. Oh, do you guys have any questions about the general fund? Right now.
Overall.
Yeah.
Well, just on what I just gave you, like, do you have any questions? I can answer them at the end, or do you have any questions right now?
And then.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so enterprise. So the enterprise fund this fiscal year has a budget at 10.94 million. 3,414,000 is operating, so this is what's actually gonna run the enterprise fund. 7.5 is grants, so this is untouchable money. So this, we can't use this to operate salaries or anything like that, so this technically doesn't exist. After everything is said and done, after all of the revenues and the expenditures are accounted for, we have a remaining balance of 142,000 to play with. This is not just all the money that's left in water fund. This is just what's left in this budget. We do a zero-based budget, so every dollar is accounted for. The remaining 142,000 will go to any additions to the budget that may happen from now until the final budget hearing. But if nothing changes, then it'll just go into what's called the contingency GL code, and it'll be available for any unexpected expenses throughout the year. Or it'll help offset the budget at the end of the fiscal year. So here's a revenue breakdown. The enterprise fund is a self-supporting government fund that operates like a business, so it generates revenues primarily through charges and fees for goods and services. For the town, that's through water, wastewater, and garbage. As you can see, out of that 10.9 that I mentioned before, 31% is for charges and for services, so 3.3. And then the rest of the graph is those grants. So if this didn't exist, then 100% would be for charges for services. There's no other money that funds the enterprise fund. It's strictly the revenue that is generated through the water accounts that the town has. So overall, the revenue, so this right here, this 3.3, that went up about 6% from last fiscal year, which is not a lot considering it's only about 180,000. We are doing a water rate study to see if we need to increase our rates to bring in more revenue for the town, just because we are, the graph is starting to come too close. So we're not bringing enough in than what we're spending, right, in the enterprise fund. So we need to do a water rate study to see if we need to increase our rates to help pay for the water services and the sewer services. We also need to do one because if we're gonna do another water plant, we can pledge some of those revenue sources to that, so that we don't have to take on debt. Some of the expenditure highlights, the department was tasked with trying to implement a 10% reduction on non-contracted expenses, just like they were in the general fund. So most line items do reflect a 10% decrease from the prior fiscal year. We also budgeted $42,000 for utility repair experts, or URE, to operate our current water plant. So our longtime water plant operator, Brad, resigned or retired, I'm not sure which one. But he's just no longer with us. So now we need somebody to operate it for us. So right now, until we can fill that position, URE's stepped up, so we've had to budget $42,000 for them. And then we budgeted $25,000 for a water supply work plan update. That's required for us to do. And then we also budgeted $72,000 for SCADA upgrades, so this is for the water plant that we currently have. Originally it was budgeted at $40,000, but we actually got the quotes back and it came back at $72,000, so we had to increase that. And then $30,000 for the water rate study that I mentioned before. Raftellus normally does our water rate study, so they quoted that to us, so we budgeted that. Employee salaries, it also reflects a 3% COLA, just like they did in the general fund, so all of our employees in the town, I'm not sure about the school, I think they will as well, but at least town employees will be receiving a 3% COLA as of right now. The budget also includes 100% of the health insurance paid, just like the general fund does. It still is at a 9.5% increase. We are still waiting for our rates to come back. We did get our preliminary numbers. They did come back a little high. We told them to go back to the drawing board, so we're waiting for those numbers to come back to us. Once we have those numbers, then we'll share it with you guys, but right now everything is still up in the air, so I don't really have a concrete answer for you. But as of right now, we're still holding strong at a 9.5% increase, so. Okay, moving on to the impact fee budget. So the impact fee budget currently is at 4.2 million. We have 2.4 budgeted for projects. We have the remaining 1.7 in reserve, so that's left over for anything that might come up, but that's all that's left in impact fees. So the overall impact fee balance decreased by 900,000. That's just due to different projects coming through. So we have been using our impact fees, but once you use them, that's it. That's all we got. So, and growth it's still coming through, but homes are not being built as much, so all we're kind of relying is on commercial, but this may not increase. Right now, we've only budgeted for 20 new homes, and that's kind of like a high number, because last year we budgeted for 35, I think, and I don't think we hit that, so we're estimating an additional 313,000 coming into impact fees. I'm not sure if that will happen. Hopefully it does. Hopefully more comes in because commercial will come on, but we're not sure yet. So this is all speculation. I have no idea. Impact fees are very hard to budget. But the balance, this 4.2, it did go up in water, wastewater, and administrative because those impact fees actually did go up with our impact fee study, so we did see an increase to that. But we did see a decrease in Parks and Rec, law enforcement, transportation, and fire protection because a lot of the projects ended up coming out of those jails. So the 900,000 is to these. So this year we have a couple projects budgeted. Water did complete some projects, and then we added an extra 150,000 for the Northwest Loop design. Water plant, so we originally had 500,000 budgeted. We've decreased that to 450. Parks and Rec, the pavilion, that's for the nature preserve. We've cut 60,000 out. We originally had 30, then we increased it to 50. Now we're at 60 just because of inflation. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, this is an agreement that we have with the nature preserve once they receive those 2 acres of Briley Farms. So the town will be putting in the pavilion for them. So we have cut this money out for them for that. But we have it written so that it doesn't get used. Another project. Southwood Park Phase 2 reduced by 180. Law enforcement. We have 10,000 for new officer laptops and equipment. Transportation, this overall decreased just because a lot of the projects that were in there from last fiscal year, or the one that we're about to complete, finished up, and the projects ended up being a little bit less. Sidewalk improvements increased by 125 to include a canal bridge. And then fire protection, more hydrant upgrades, and then we're including additional water line work, so we increased that to 75. We normally put in 50,000, anywhere from 25 to 50,000, but we increased it to 75 for fiscal year 27. Okay, moving on to capital improvements. So, capital improvements are improvements to the town that we do due to growth. We can use impact fees on it, we can use reserves, operating, all those type of things. They increase value to the town, they extend useful life to certain things that we already have, so it's good to keep this updated based on the needs of the town, and we like to project it 5 years out. And every budget time, we either edit it based on what did get completed, or if we can't complete it in that fiscal year, then we move it to the next fiscal year, pending funding. So right now, this covers fiscal year 26-27 to 30-31. However, this entire list is all dependent on Amendment 3. So if that does pass, we may not be able to do any of the projects on this list unless we either secure funding through grants, or we're able to slowly allocate some money to it. As of right now, we have 4,500 listed for IT equipment, so a lot of our laptops that we have are coming up to their useful life, so we need to upgrade it. We've been doing it in small batches, so we have another 4,500 to replace some more. And then the 130,000 comprehensive plan update, this is coming out of the general fund right now, out of the planning fee GL code. So you might have seen like a huge increase in consulting services out of the planning and zoning. That's what that's for. So we're required to do this every 10 years, so we need to do this. Projects funded through grants and impact fees for Parks and Rec, so those are all listed. Transportation, one of the capital improvements that we have coming out of general fund is for the Southern Oaks neighborhood. The other ones are all funded out of impact fees if it's possible. Same thing with water and wastewater, they're all funded through the utility impact or grants. The majority of it is coming out through grants though. We have about 4 grants in the water department, that's 7.5 million. 4 million of it is for alternative water, and then 3.5 is for the new septic to sewer project. Parker was able to secure those funds for us, so we have that listed in there. Hopefully that starts soon. And then we have 450 slated that the town is required for the alternative water. That's just coming out of impact fees right now before the construction happens. So the 4 million that we have in grants is for construction only. This is the town has to pay for all the design and everything. And then police, CJS upgrades are going to be funded through general fund unless they're able to be funded out of impact fees. If not, then it'll just be equipment that gets funded out of the impact fees. And then for the school, they need to do new kitchen equipment, but that will be funded out of their general fund, not the town's, so out of their operating. So this is a breakdown of everything that's listed. You can see the 5-year, projection. I'm not gonna go through every single project, we'll be here until tomorrow. And I also this is not my scope, this is Parker's scope, so if you have a question about a particular project, please refer to Mike Parker on that. Okay, so as of right now, we have a total of $34 million in improvements for the next 5 years. Like I said, that's all dependent on Amendment 3. And if we do have money, even if Amendment 3 doesn't pass, the town still has to have money in order to fund these things, so. Okay, that is the end of my presentation. I can open it up to public comment now, and any questions, and then I can bring it back to you guys. That sound good? Okay.
Yeah, public comment. Ed, you want to say anything? Oh, Gabby was going to say public comment. Come on.
Myself?
Ed Kulikowski, 51 Vandermeer Street. Apologize for my tardiness tonight. As I came in, you were saying that our real estate allocated has gone down. How can that be possible when everyone's values seem to be going up?
So the property appraiser does a preliminary number based on what they have versus what is coming online essentially for us. So they came up with that number on their own, I'm assuming through actuarial different types of formulas or something. But they originally gave us that number, which is what I base it off of when, I think I have a slide, let me look and see, cause there's like a process. There's like a little life cycle essentially of when the property appraiser does their stuff. So,
So, just Ed, so you know that the number that she used the first time was a number that was given to her by the property appraisers, and it was like she said, a preliminary number that said this is what it is probably gonna be.
Yeah.
And then, what was it, Gabby, maybe 2 weeks ago? She got an email saying, oh, no, sorry, made a mistake, your number is this.
11 million.
It's $11 million difference.
Is there any disputing that based on that significant difference?
Yeah.
is there, I'm sorry?
Is there any way to dispute it based on that significant difference? There's nothing we can go back and say, listen, you guys.
No, because, they said that it was an estimate to begin with, so I can't take it for face value. So, the issue that I have with that is that in the letter, it says this information is provided to assist you in your budget planning. So you would think that it was somewhat accurate number. And then, like I said, in years past, I went through it and it was never off by that much. It is always an estimate. It might come in a little bit higher, it might come in a little less, but it's never been $11 million off. So I don't know what happened.
And just real quick, if you look at that number of what the tangible personal property is for the town, you're at 1 billion, that they gave you, 1,037,422,485 or 55. And now that new number is 11 million less than that, right?
Yeah.
So we were at 1.2. Yeah.
I mean, in a larger municipality, 11 million might not have been that much, but for us, it
Yeah.
hurts.
True, that's true.
So according to the tax roll cycle, so when I went to my FGFOA conference, there was there was a taxing authority there, so it was another water, and then it was a property appraiser, and then it was the city of Kissimmee. And so they talked about how they do the trim process. According to the property appraiser, the tax roll cycle, January 1 is the date of the value. And then March 1st is the exemption deadline, and then June 1st is their best estimates, and then July 1st is when they actually put those estimates to paper. So they estimate everything until July 1st, and July 1st is when they actually get that concrete number. And then the towns and cities and villages have to go in there and put their millage rate in there so that they can calculate that, and then that's when they send out their trim notices to the residents to say, hey, this is what your preliminary trim notice is gonna be. And that happens in mid-August. So I think they just had the values and the exemptions, but nothing was concrete until after June. Once they probably, maybe some stragglers came through. I'm sure they have an influx of homestead properties coming through now. So maybe they didn't take those into account when they originally gave us those taxable values, I'm not sure. I don't know, I don't work for the property appraiser, but, all I know is that it's 11 million less and I had to adjust the budget.
Ed, does that help out?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll close the public hearing then and bring it back to your, Mr. Keller, you want to?
I have a few things on my list. So some of these are kind of statements and reiterating some things. Some of this, Gabby and I chatted a little bit beforehand, but I think one of the important things to note is that, Elise the town manager did have the departments do their budget with a 10% reduction. And this is all prior to us being potentially impacted by the homestead exemption thing. So again, this is kind of a statement, but we've decreased our budget by 10%. We're not even being hit by the potential ramifications of the homestead exemption, and we're still needing $300,000 from our reserves. Again, I chatted with Gabby before, just before the meeting, because I am not a fan of us balancing our budget with reserves. We talked about the fact that I think, when the fire thing happened a couple years ago, that was an unexpected thing. it was an appropriate thing to use reserves at that point in time. I don't think it's an appropriate thing at this point, especially because we're not even being hit by homestead yet. So, you know, if we're having to fund with reserves and then the homestead thing goes through, we're gonna be in trouble. So, you know, some other things of note is, you know, the Southern Oaks project is $40,000 more than it was originally gonna be. I'll be honest, knowing what I know now, I would probably have not said we needed to move forward with paving big, because we don't have that $50,000 to do that. So one of the other things that is in the budget that Gabby and I talked about a little bit, this is something I've also talked to Elise about, there's $100,000 for a land purchase, which I understand is some arrangement we have with the developer of Oakland Trails that we may be able to purchase some land. And I know Parker, you've given us a lot of information on that, and Elise has told me that obviously it wouldn't happen unless we could buy it for this $100,000, but to me, $100,000 right now is $100,000, and I would say that unless you can give me some really good reason why we need this land, we don't have $100,000 to spend if we're pulling $300,000 out of our reserves. So that is something I definitely would like to look at. Parker, I don't know if you want to share any more. I've been given all the information, and I understand that, you know, if it's a deal for us to get it, but if we don't have $100,000, we don't have $100,000.
Well, I can tell you that it's a remnant from the development. When they did the development, we made them give us a large piece of land for the roundabout. So once it was constructed and the new right-of-ways were put in place, it left fragments, 3 fragments of their property, and the abandonment of the old right-of-ways will give them one large parcel. It's like 1.2 acres, I think, something like that. So we have to abandon the old right-of-ways. We have to, you know, we still need to do that. And so we were thinking that we could probably secure that property. Right now, the immediate need, I would say, would be a hurricane debris site. We do not have a good site for debris management. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we had the vacant property across the highway that we leased, you know, for the time being, but we don't have any place for that. So that would be, you know, a good site. It could be used as something for the water and sewer, or possibly a large park area, or transportation related. It could become a transportation, like what do you want to call it, a point in between Orange County and Lake County for bus service. There's a lot of reasons that we looked at that. So we're going to give it our best effort to get them to sell it to us for $100,000.
So is it something that, as you called it, remnant land, is it something that if we don't buy it this year, it could potentially be something we look at buying from them the next year? Or, I mean, it's not land, if it's remnant land and it's not really, is it something that they could sell to someone else?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And again, I know from my conversation with Elise is, we're just hoping that they'll sell it to us for $100,000. There's nothing that, if they could sell it to somebody else for more, they may.
That's correct.
Okay, so,
So the land is crisscrossed with numerous utilities. Those are going to stay. It would be hard to put a large building on it, but you could put, you know, some things.
okay. I still think it's something that we just, under the current financial constraints we have, it's something that we have to really make sure that it's a necessity. And again, you know, looking through the budget, as I talked to Elise before and I talked to Gabby, you know, $1,000 here, $1,000 there doesn't really help us. You know, you've got to find things. If it's not $10,000 or $15,000 or more and multiple opportunities, there's not a way to find a lot of money. So that's one that just really stuck out with to me. The other one, which is one I hate to have to do, but I know that it's a potential thing, is the employee insurance and having the employees participate. We pay 100% right now. I mean, I hate to do that to our employees, But again, it may, sounding like if the increase is as significant as it is, we may have to look at that. You know, I hate to do that to our employees, but it may just be something that we have to look at. And then lastly, you know, the assessment studies, I hate to see us spend that money, but again, in light of what is potentially coming down the road in November, I mean, obviously if things don't happen and, you know, the property tax thing doesn't happen, that goes away as well, you know, because we won't have to do that, but if that does happen, we need those assessment studies because we're gonna have to find other ways for money, and that's gonna mean assessing our residents additional fees for fire and water, right? Is that what it was, fire and?
Yes, I think my understanding is that even if Amendment 3 doesn't happen, we are still looking at other ways to fund fire. So that's been on the drawing board since we got hit with the original increase. Unfortunately, our code does not allow for any additional assessments, so I believe we're trying to work on that right now so that we can do some assessments, non-ad valorem assessments. It would not fund the fire rescue 100%, that would be impossible to do. I think COE is trying to do it and it would cost like, I don't know, like $2,000 per resident, and that just defeats the entire purpose. But we would hope that if we are able to do a fire assessment, it would be a small number or even a medium number, that could help offset that 2.5 million that we're getting hit by them. Because if it continues to get assessed by our property values, we'll never come out of it. Because if it continues to go the way that it is, as Mr. Kulikowski said, everyone's property value is going up. So in turn, our fire risk is just gonna continue to go up. So we need to look at alternative ways. And if that is by doing it as a fire assessment, even if it's like $100 or $200, I don't know what it would be, but that would help offset it some. I don't know what the process would be. That's again, that's not my
Well,
background.
and I understand that, and I think that, you know, again, whether the homestead thing happens or not, that's something that we're looking at, but I think, you know, it's an important time, again, to say that, you know, if the homestead exemption thing goes through on the ballot in November, I know personally, my homeowners' taxes are not bad. I personally think they're reasonable for what we have in our town. My concern, and I've expressed concerns about this again, is that I'll end up paying more because we may have to charge fees that are more, you know, and I think that that's a reality a lot of people need to look at, that are saying, oh, you know, they're just trying to scare us and this, that, and the other. I mean, you know, I know there's a lot of entities that are coming out, you know, on why this is gonna be a problem, but I just, again, want everyone to be educated and make sure that they understand what they're voting for. And again, we've got a small group of people here, hopefully there's more watching at home, and hopefully they're reading everything and educating themselves. But thanks, Gabby, I know you work really hard on this, and I know it's a lot, and I know most of my stuff has been statements and not necessarily questions, but obviously the $100,000 for the land purchase is something that I would ask everybody on the commission to consider on whether that's something that we need to look at, you know, making an adjustment on, or if it's even something that we can afford. But that's all the things I have, so thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McLean?
So, back to the fire assessment situation, I know that we saw a decrease this year due to the lower taxable values. And I know Lisa had sent some public records requests trying to gain a little additional knowledge as to how those numbers are calculated, because while we see a decrease here, it could be another exponential increase next year. Have we gauged any information back from the actual calculation of the value related to that fund, and is it directly related to the town of Oakland's taxable values, or is it kind of like spread apart in the county? I just want to know.
I'll let the mayor answer this.
So, what I understand is option they gave us last year or this year was you can either A, go with what your taxable values are, or if they're lower, you can go with Orange County's increase. So right now, so this year it was 2.24 and it's gonna go up to 2.46. And that's based on valuations of Oakland's property or Orange County's property going out. That's the ones that we would use. I mean, it would be ridiculous not to use it. I know Elise has made the public records request. I can tell you that over the last maybe 10 years, the fire calls that have happened here have not increased. They're remained the same. It's an unfortunate thing, but yeah, I think Elise is still pushing that in trying to get those that documentation. Now, we did ask them what is the breakout for this particular fire station here, and the response back was we do not break out our individual fire stations. I find that hard to believe, but I mean, so that's the response they got back for that. But I know she's getting information in that's coming in, so it is a big hit. It's the largest hit fire.
Well, and again, it's based on values. I mean, a house doesn't get any bigger just because the value goes up. It doesn't take more to put a fire out in that house. It's a strange way to calculate that.
And that's the argument. There's
Yeah.
gotta be a different way to.
Staffing
to do it.
services.
Yeah, there's gotta be a different way to calculate how it goes, and unfortunately, if it continues on, there's some point in time where you hit a threshold, and you're not able to do it, or getting up to that threshold. And it goes back to what Commissioner Keller said on, non-ad valorem fees, and, that is something that we will seriously take a look at, because you cannot continue to keep using reserves to offset the cost of the fire department. And it's unfortunate, but that is something that we have to start looking at very, very carefully. And as Gabby said, there's language being drafted for that. And every municipality that I have talked to, especially in West Orange County, they're all looking at that same type of deal. Okay. Any questions?
It did, and then my second inquiry is gonna be directed toward Chief Easton with regard to the police vehicle replacement. I know that we have one car that should be arriving soon, and, you know, others coming off of the lease. As it stands, what is the need with the potential versus the replacement?
So we're looking at, when a car comes off of the lease, it's 5 years old. So there's some issues that we run into there as far as maintenance fees and things like that. That's what we're looking at is the price that we're paying for vehicles that have come off our lease to be repaired or maintained has increased exponentially. That's something we don't see when they're in their first 5 years of use, so that's one of the issues. To address your first point, the car that's supposed to be coming in is here. We're waiting on the windows to be tinted. When the windows are tinted, we send it to the decal place. They'll have a decal in 2 to 3 days, so it should be here within the next 7 to 10 days in service, which means the officer who's gonna receive that his car would get passed down. His car is a little healthier, a little better shape, so it'll get passed down to somebody who's driving one that's not in as good condition. I've discussed with Gabby over the past couple of days, the actual true need for another car will be going down. We won't need one as much as what we've been like a year ago when we took the donation from Claremont PD. What we have to watch is just through routine usage, or like what just happened with this one that's in your packet. A citizen hit our car unexpected and totaled it. And we owed we owed 5,000, and they're giving us 7,000 or something like that. Or we owed 2,000, something. It was $5,000 difference. But that's the issue is, it's more, the scope is based off of the unknown more than the need. The need has gone down. So I can honestly tell her, which we talked about this week, we don't need another car right now. That's why we did budget for it. But the unexpected is, the unknown is what we don't know. We do have to plan for the unknown. So we're not stuck with an officer that can't control
be very brief. Just listen to everything that's being said. I'm just real concerned. We did a great job. Mark, you did a great job. I'm not gonna, repeat anything. I think you did a great job. You cut in every place you can. And I'm always, whether I meet with you guys personally or just in general, looking at ways how we can, bring in more top line growth. So I'm just focusing on, as much as possible, working with Elise and Mike Parker to try to bring in some grants, because as Commissioner Keller mentioned, some of the larger items, hopefully we can, get some grants to take care of some of the, some of the needs, even, with the police department, they get grants to cover some of those, big ticket items. So, and I know Mike Parker is going back and forth between his roles, but he and I speak and via email, and, he's on some additional lists that we can kind of work together. So I'm just, just hopeful that we can maximize some of these additional dollars to come in, because we're growing, and as we grow, the police department is going to grow, every department is going to grow. So if we can, get these infrastructure things going and review some of these costs that you already have cut, and try to figure out how we can do all the things that we need, we can't stop. I know we're all concerned about, the cost, but, we can't stop. We have to figure out how to balance. And so I'll say, great job. And my focus is trying to figure out how can we work with the top line growth, do it in a way that is fiscally sound and making sure we stay out of trouble. Great job, great job.
Agreed, yes.
That's it.
All right, thanks, Gabby. Again, just to echo, yes, great job. One of the bright things I think that we have going for us a little bit here, just a positive spin on it, is the commercial development that's coming in. We've seen some large projects that are hitting now, that are in the development stage, and about to break ground. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll start seeing the benefits of that development, the commercial development coming in, and that I think will help us out a lot on that. It's about the only positive thing I can say right now. So a couple of questions, Gabby, and I asked Gabby these a little earlier, but just so everybody knows. So Gabby, we talked about what the reserves after a withdrawal. What was our reserve number? Do you recall? I'm just trying to put everything in perspective for numbers.
So according to the auditors who presented at the last commission meeting in July, they mentioned that the 2025, so as of September 30th of 2025, our reserves were $4,073,741, which equated to about 40% of our expenditures. That's about 6 months, 5 to 6 months. If we were to pull the 300,000, that would bring us down to 3.7 million, which would bring us down to about 33%, which would be about 4 months worth of expenditures.
4 months. Yeah.
Yeah, because they figured that our expenditures per month is about $970,000.
As far as operating, no money was brought in.
Correct. So yeah, so the understanding is that if no other money were to come into the town, so if the world were to shut down, again, as we did a couple years ago, then we would have enough money in our reserves to operate it for 4 months.
Right.
Which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of
It's
money,
not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time.
but it would help offset for us to figure something out.
Sure.
I mean, everything moves slowly in government, so 4 months isn't very much.
Yes, I know that firsthand. Being there, runs slowly. I will say also, it's my opinion that, Public Works, and I know that they've slashed a lot in Public Works, and I think they've slashed as much as they can in Public Works. I would not slash anymore, because the reason for that is, when you let something go unmaintained for a while, it's gonna cost you more in the long run, to put it all back together. So, I don't know if there's really much anything else you could slash to reduce in the maintenance side of the Public Works this time.
Yeah, they're kind of at their end. We can't really cut any more from Public Works. They had some wish lists, but we really couldn't
those capital improvements, would have to be probably judged on a case-by-case basis at some point in time. You know, this is a great list, it's wonderful, but, you know, let's see where we're at that point in time.
Yes.
And I have heard that, education on Amendment 3 is getting out there, and there are some sentiments maybe that it's, you know, people are starting to understand what happens. And then I know the town and the lease is gonna set up workshops for the public to kind of talk about the, you know, here's what to expect, here's what can happen and stuff, so that would be good. But other than that, thank you. Anybody else? All right, that's it.
Do you guys have,
The rate?
In the next.
yeah, do you guys have any additions or deletions from the previous budget workshop that you guys have for me?
I did not, Gabby.
No additions.
I have it.
No addition?
No deletions.
None.
Okay.
Good,
Okay, yeah.
thank you guys. All right, we'll reconvene 7.